Today's demo is going to take a little bit different route than we normally do. Instead of talking to any slides and going through kind of more generic information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step you through Leostream policies in a segment that I call the power of policies. So to do this, let's just go straight into the connection broker. So I'm going to start by coming over here and logging in as an end user, just so I can show you how my policy is currently configured. And then we're going to show you different ways that you can change the policy up to change the end user experience and also what they're offered and how it's connected, things like that. So first, let me just sign in and show you how we're getting started here. You might have noticed really quickly, I logged in, I saw one machine, I was offered a single machine. So the connection broker said, oop, user has a single offered machine. Instead of making them click another button to connect to it, go ahead and launch the connection. And in this case, it happens to be connecting in using our HTML5 viewer. You'll notice that it opened up in the same tab. Everything's good there. So let's talk about why that happened the way it did and how we can change that user experience. To do that, I'm going to come over here. You know, this looks exactly the same because it is. It's still the web interface for my connection broker. But now I'm going to log in as the main Leostream administrator. Now, I happen to know that that user was assigned to my demonstration policy. So I'm just going to come over here to the policies page and open up that policy. Now, obviously, I'm not covering, there's a lot of other configuration that's done in a Leostream environment, but I'm going to focus purely on policies now. So the way the policy form is set up right now, and later in the year when we have a broker update, this policy form is going to look a little different. We made some usability enhancements to it. But the way this is set up right now is it's one very long form. At the top of the form, you have these general policy options, and the ones that are applicable, that caused the behavior that you saw when I logged in last time. It's a couple things here. So one, I have on the option to auto launch the remote session if only one desktop is offered. And that's the behavior that you saw. That is great if you know that users should always be offered a single machine, because it does make it so that they don't have to click the extra link, but it could potentially hide information. In my case, I have a policy that's offering machines from multiple pools. So I should have, as a user, seen more than one machine, but I didn't because I wasn't offered a machine from a certain policy. So if you know your users should be offered multiple machines, then you definitely don't want that option on. So I'm going to go ahead and untick that. Now, if I save this form, I can come in here. Let's make sure that's done saving. There we go. And now when I log in, you see the machine that I'm offered, and now I can click connect to actually connect to it. Now, when I was connected to that machine, you notice that it connected me in the same tab. Well, again, if you're offering users multiple machines, or if the intent is to offer them multiple machines, then you probably don't want the connection opening in the same tab. You want the user to continue seeing their offer list so they can connect to multiple machines as well. And so as we work our way through our policy options here, there's an option here to launch HTML5 viewers and external viewer connections in a new window. Now, if you're using a client-based protocol, so in a case where the broker pulls down a configuration file to launch the display protocol, then this option doesn't apply. But for any of the HTML5 viewers, including our built-in Leostream Gateway viewer or the No Machine, Skilled Cloud Workstation, DCV, any of the HTML5s, you'll probably want to open them in another window. And when you close them, at least for Leostream Gateway connections, we'll close that extra tab after we open it up. So now if I have that option open, if I come in here, and then I'm going to sign out and sign back in. Now when I connect, it's actually going to come up, and you see that it popped open in the new tab here. So I'm just going to let that continue connecting there in the background. Going back to our policy here, now I mentioned that in the case where you have offers from multiple pools, the user should see more than one desktop. Why was I only seeing one desktop? Well, if I looked at the test login, I would realize that, oh, there are pools that don't have valid desktops to offer to the user. it's probably handy for you to let users know that that's the case so that they see, hey, I was supposed to be offered something, but I wasn't. And to do that, you can click this inform user when a pool is out of resources option. So once I save that, now what I can actually do is I can come in here and refresh my list. And now I see, oh, there actually were 2 more pools, but I don't have any resources available. And so now the user can contact the IT admin, or you as the IT admin already get a log message in the connection broker logs. So you'll be able to see that this is going on and then figure out how you can actually get the user a desktop. Going back to our policy, some other interesting options up here in the general policy section. The one I want to point out here, expire the user's session when it's locked. So if they connect to a machine and then they lock it, that will expire the Leostream session. So that way, if they do open up a tab where they have access to 3 machines, as soon as they lock one of those machines, they won't be able to connect to any of the other machines in there. So that's a great security feature so that other users can't walk up to their client and click on a connect button as well. The same is true for this option to expire the user's session. We default, just from historical purposes, to 2 days. So if I leave this tab open with my offers, I can go away, come back in a day, and still click connect to that machine. Probably you want to change this to a tighter time frame for security reasons, 5 minutes, whatever, so that the user would have to re-log in to get access to their desktops again after that amount of time expires. So now let's move down into the sections that talk about the desktop assignment from pools. What are some of the neat things that you can do with these options here? Well, for one, let's talk about why were machines not offered from those other pools that are in the policy. So let's look at our Windows Remote Boost pool. Here we're saying let's offer one pool from the Windows Remote Boost pool. It's going to be offered to all users in this policy. And here I'm offering it as the pool display name. When a user logs into Leostream, the connection broker determines which desktop to offer to the user from the pool at the time the user logs in. But in a lot of cases, the user themselves doesn't need to know which particular desktop they're offered. So it's often handy to display to the user either the pool name or maybe a pool display name, something that you've hard-coded in there. So you have a lot of different ways to change what the user sees here. And we'll play with those a little bit. Moving down here, there's an option to offer running machines. Usually you want to do that. But then there's also here an option to offer stopped or suspended machines, which you'll notice we have set to no. Well, in this case, what I really want is to be able to see those stopped machines. So if you know you're working in, for example, a cloud environment and you know you want to keep your machines off when they're not in use, you want to make sure that you switch that policy option so that it offers the machine. So now you notice my Windows Remote Boost, it's changed from no connection available to connect, and it shows you the state, the power state in the icon here. Well, by default, if the user tries to connect to a machine that's off, the connection broker will power it up. But again, in some environments, particularly in some clouds, it takes a while for the machine to power up. So what you might want instead is to give the user a way to control the power state themselves. And you guessed it, there's a policy option for that too. So going back into our pool section here, there's this allow user to start stop machine. So I'm going to switch that to yes with reboot. The difference here using reboot is we would try to do a peaceful reboot of the operating system. If you know that you tend to have machines that actually need to be forced, if something hangs and so you can't do a peaceful reboot on the OS, you can use the power off and start option to do a force reboot. I'm just going to do a regular reboot here. And while we're doing that, just so you can see what else this looks like, let's change the pool display name to, for example, the desktop display name. Let's see how that changes what the user sees. So refresh. So now you see that's the actual name of the machine that's offered, and now the user actually has an option here to start the machine. And if I click it, they get a nice little notification that it's starting, and as soon as the machine is done booting, the Leostream agent registers with the broker, the links will come back so that the user can click connect. So the general settings, policy-wide options. Each pool then has options that allow you to control how a particular desktop from individual pools are offered. One thing that's also common here in the desktop of user, when the user is assigned section of the policy, notice at the bottom here, there's an option here to send HTTP GET requests. You'll actually see these options scattered around throughout the connection broker. There was one up here actually in the general settings to say send a GET request at the start of the user session. This is another one to send the GET request when the desktop is assigned. So this part of the policy, when user is assigned to the desktop, that gets invoked as soon as the user clicks connect on the machine. So up until this point, the general settings, the pool settings, that was all determining what is the user going to see, what are they going to be offered, what permissions do they have on that machine. Once they click connect, you move into a different segment of the life cycle of a Leostream session. And that's determined by this when user is assigned section here. Then, of course, after they get assigned, then there's the part where they actually get connected to the machine, and when user connects to the desktop, that's what those are the actions that take effect at that point in time. One of the useful things that we've added recently is this ability to indicate if the user is logged in as a local or domain user. This setting is also set in the user's role, so the user has a global setting for if they're a domain or local user. But if you were creating a policy that needs to log the user into both a Windows and a Linux machine, for example, the Windows machine may use the user's domain account while the Linux machine needs to use the local account, so you can override the user's role setting by using the drop-down menu that you see here. The When User Connect session is also where you're going to indicate if you want to enable collaboration for the connections that actually support that. So you see the list here: No Machine, HPZ Central, Remote Boost, and TGX. We'll be adding NiceDCP into this list by Q3 of this year. And then finally, in the policy, in the desktop section of the policy, you indicate the protocol, power control, and release plans that are assigned to that machine. So those are just some of the cool options that you have available in policies. Really helps you tailor not only the end user experience, but obviously also what they are offered and how they are connected to their machine. If you want to give this a try, you have any other questions on policies or anything else that you see in Leostream, you can feel free to drop us a line at sales@leostream.com. Thanks.